recording.
You are listening to MOJOPOD. I'm Peter.
I'm Joey.
And I'm Brian.
What if you did that in French? What if you did that intro in French?
Allons-y, toi-même, l'amour.
Je m'appelle Brian.
Je ne sais pas les MOJOPOD.
Omelette du fromage.
Now, even if we just start from that, people are going to be thinking ourselves, are they going to be talking about France today? What's the whole deal?
No, but we're going to be talking about something from another country that has French as one of the recognized languages.
Probably one of the most well-known cartoons in Europe. Probably within like the top 5 most well-known cartoon characters in Europe. We're going to be talking about Tintin today. Yay!
Oh wait, I thought we were going to be talking about the movie In Bruges.
No, that would have been the greatest hybrid of all time. Tintin in Bruges.
I don't want to be in Bruges no more.
The Captain Haddock is the one with the thick bird.
Oh God! What if Captain Haddock was the one where he's breaking the phone in that scene? Haddock, Captain, that's just an inanimate object. You're an inanimate object.
By thundering barboons, you're an inanimate object.
Now, for those of you who are either too American to know who Tintin is, or for those of you who aren't aware of Tintin, Tintin is the story about a Belgian boy or Belgian young man. His age isn't really clear.
No,
I'm guessing like late 20s, between his 20s and his 30s. I'm saying.
I think would you see what he's wearing and stuff?
Well, he's
no,
pretty young and spry if you see him.
I'd say like 18.
18?
I would think so. I mean, I don't know. People actually got jobs back when they were 18. Back then.
I guess some people skip college right for their career. Yeah.
Yeah. My guess is I always thought he was like late teens, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about a Belgian young man, again,
of an undiscernible age.
with his little white dog who go around the world solving mysteries and going on adventures.
Yes. And even though he's a reporter, you never see him in a newsroom.
You never see him on a typewriter either.
You see like a typewriter, not a typewriter. A typewriter. It's kind of crammed into like the corner of the room. It's always set up on a desk. It's kind of like the writer's lounge.
Yeah.
Where you just go, it's probably collected dust, and Tintin's like, I should write today. Or I could go on this adventure here and write about it later.
Yes. He never does. Now, before we start,
sort of like a procrastinating, adventurous Hunter S. Thompson without the drugs.
Pretty much. Now,
if Tintin had that much charisma.
Only. You seem like doing drugs and stuff.
Yes.
Now, before we start, gotta ask you guys one thing. How did you guys get into Tintin? Who wants to go first?
Well, I first heard of Tintin when I was a kid, back in the 90s. On Nickelodeon, they were showing reruns of The Adventures of Tintin, which was originally an HBO series.
Right.
And they would show episodes like for example, the crab with the golden claws.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of the other ones they had. Like, remember the one he went to Egypt and he goes into the tomb and he's hallucinating.
Cigars of the Pharaoh.
Cigars of the Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And so that's how I was first introduced to Tintin. And I just remember like, back in 2011, when they were talking about how The Adventures of Tintin was going to be made into a movie by Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson, I was like, little kid inside me went,
like the kid just literally just jumped out of your body, just went.
it's like the little child in me experienced puberty and got his first erection, basically.
How about you, Brian? How did you get into Tintin?
Like a lot of things, I mean, really, I actually didn't see the series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, my only exposure to Tintin has been through the books. And I don't know, Tintin was kind of a staple for me because my dad had read it when he was younger, and that kind of got passed down to me. Mm-hmm. It sort of was part of the same kind of group as, like, I was reading Magic Magic Treehouse. I was reading Tintin and Calvin and Hobbes. Those were kind of my 3.
When you said Magic School, I thought you were gonna say Magic School Bus.
I don't know if did they have books.
They might have. I think it was based on a book. I just remember the TV show.
Wait, the Magic School Bus? Yeah, they had books.
Was it a book series?
It was a book series.
Did they ever get like really dark and talk about how she was kidnapping those kids and taking them into like? They cut out that episode where they go to Amsterdam, the red light district.
The top brass at PBS was like, no.
But anyway, though, yeah, it was through the books, and I think with the exception of the Alpha art, I think I read all of them.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Even the Congo one?
Yeah, no, I read Tintin in the Congo and also what was it? Tintin in the Picaros. Then there was the Broken Ear.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name them all, but yeah, no, I mean even like the earlier ones. I think the first one I ever read was Tintin in America.
Oh, really? That was
Yeah.
the first one you read?
It was.
That's interesting.
Yep.
What's up?
I was just thinking about like how it was amazing. We were talking about how a lot of people who like me grew up and loved Indiana Jones as a kid, and then they talked about how you said, Joey, I remember you told me this for the premiere of Raiders of the Lost Ark in France. There were a lot of movie critics who wrote articles in the newspaper comparing it to Tintin.
Yeah.
And you said Spielberg was looking at it and he kept seeing the name Tintin throughout the articles, and he was like, "Who's Tintin?"
What does that word mean? What does the word Tintin mean?
Yes.
But actually, I'll give you guys my quick origin. I got into Tintin when I was like probably 11 or 12, because ever since I was a kid, I always read comics. Like to this day, I still read comic books. And so at that time, I was reading like Garfield, I was reading X-Men, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, and my aunt came to me one time and she said, "Joey, I'm going to get you a book. It's going to be called Tintin. You're gonna, I think you're going to really like it." I went, "Okay, cool, I'll give it a shot." And she gave me this book, and I still have it to this day. It's in my room. And I read this. I'm like, this is fun. And in the corner of my brain, I was thinking to myself, is this made by the same guy who drew Babar? Because as a kid, I didn't have, my comparison skills weren't, because to me, as a kid, I thought the drawings looked similar to almost like a lot of the drawings almost look similar to Babar, but then as I got older, it's like, no, two different people.
Yeah.
But the first book I ever read was The Secret of the Unicorn, and then like I remember as I was reading it, because at the very end of that book, it's a to be continued, because it's like, all right, now we gotta let's go find the treasure, and as I'm reading this, I'm just like, what happens next? My aunt's like, yeah, well, you gotta read the next story. I'm like, they don't finish it in this book? No, Joy, that's how they get people to buy the books. I'm like, but what happens next? You gotta read what happens next. Oh, I can't wait that long. But that's about it. But going back to how when he was asking like what's Tintin and stuff, the origins of Tintin is pretty interesting also. Hergé, the creator of Tintin, he had this one character called Tortor, and Tortor was like a Boy Scout, because Hergé was drawing comics about Boy Scouts because he was in the Boy Scouts when he was a kid, and so later on when his career started peaking, like not like when he started getting recognized, he got hired by this one Catholic magazine company, and that's where he created Tintin, because he just switched the names around and stuff. And also he got the inspiration from a few things, like Tintin's like his appearance was, I think, based off his brother, because his little brother, when his brother was younger, his brother got bullied as a kid, so his brother shaved his head into that little hair thing to make himself look more badass and stuff. And then he also inspired it from a real
Tintin was just balding.
I can't help but think like his hair, Tintin's hair. You know how it's sort of like there's that wisp of hair sticking up in the front.
Yeah.
I just can't help but every time I see that, I just think like if he had a similar situation where he got that style, like in the movie There's Something About Mary.
Oh God.
Just swipes some sort of questionable substance off a friend's hand and just styles his hair with it, and it just stuck.
Yeah, it literally just stuck. He couldn't take it out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a scene in the movie where he's walking past mirrors and he pushes his hair back and just goes whoop, right back up.
And I remember like they showed in the movie how when he was swimming up to the seaplane that the little wisp of hair was sticking out like a dorsal fin.
Yeah, I
like
remember
a shark.
That.
But also he I don't know if I just said this just now, but he based it off both his brother and a real life reporter who would go around the world on these adventures. But instead, that guy was Danish, and so. But a lot of the characters are always based off something. Like Tintin's based off that one guy and his brother, and a little bit of Hergé. Captain Haddock was based off Hergé and his older self, more grumpy and stuff. Thompson and Thompson was based off his clumsiness, and Charlie Chaplin, and Professor what's up?
That would make sense.
Yeah, and then
Professor Calculus was based off of a famous French inventor
Mm-hmm.
and physicist. It was like August something. I think it was like August Collard, was it? Or
He looked kind of similar to Professor Calculus.
yeah, if he did the side by side comparison, yeah.
Right. But then also, see, I don't know where to start from here then.
Well, I guess then what we can kind of go into is sort of, well, in the beginning, because he didn't have all those friends at first. I mean, really,
Right.
it's weird to think of, like, because what I loved about Tintin, just in terms of the way they packaged it,
Mhm.
was that on the back, you could always see what you were missing.
Right.
And I mean, that was a really great tactic because you could just go like, "Oh, there's all these stories," but it never was like really that incomplete.
Right.
Like, I mean, there would be some things like missing, like Tintin in the Congo
Mm-hmm.
and Tintin in the Alphard, but usually it was like pretty complete.
Yeah.
But it was in the order too.
Mhm.
So like it took. I mean, I don't know what book number it was. The Crab with the Golden Claws, because that's when Haddock first shows up.
Right,
Yeah.
that's when he's first introduced.
And then it kind of almost became.
That's also where the TV series started too, by the way.
Oh well, I mean that totally makes sense because I mean, not really gonna like start out like bashing anything, but Tintin I always thought was kind of more defined by his friends
Mm-hmm.
because like Snowy, Haddock, Calculus, the Thompson and Thompson, Castiglione, was that her name?
Oh, Castafiore.
Castiglione. They were all a lot more interesting than him, but he was always kind of the catalyst. He was
Yeah.
always the one that's just like, we got to get going from here. He was the straight man to all that. It's sort of like, it's like imagining prior, like what it was like prior to that. Imagine Planes, Trains, and Automobiles just starring Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just be like Back to the Future, just starring Marty McFly. You need Doc Brown with him, you know.
Right.
And I sort of like, I feel like too, also with the cartoon, the voice actor who did the voice of Captain Haddock, he made him sound almost like a seafaring Doc Brown, basically, like a seafaring Christopher
Mhm.
Lloyd,
Like a pirate almost.
like a pirate almost.
Blistering
Blistering Barnacles, 1.21 gigawatts.
And then
and then I just think about like in the movie, the 2011 movie, Andy Serkis did the voice of Captain Haddock, and for some reason he decided to give him a thick Scottish burg. I don't know why he did that.
Oh, I'm actually going to say, I think that he was the miscast of that whole movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he did bad.
Yeah.
Everyone else was really, really well chosen for it, but I'm sorry, so it kind of confused me why they didn't go with like, I don't know, should we jump right to the movie here?
If you want
Or,
to.
I don't know. Like,
I mean,
I think we should stick with literature first. just-
yeah, because I was gonna add some fun facts about it too, but I mean it's up to you guys. But going back to the characters, a lot of the characters, their French names are different. Like Snowy is actually Milo, and Hergé got the name Milo from one of his past girlfriends, and that was it was a nickname for his girlfriend back then from his previous
Was
girlfriend.
she a pest and a drunk as well?
I don't know. Was she afraid of spiders? I don't know.
It's like so basically you're saying that his ex-girlfriend was a complete dog. You're saying she was a bitch. That's what you're saying.
No. I don't know.
Oh boy.
And then and then Tintin is it's the same name but it's pronounced Tintin. And then Thompson and Thompson is Dupont. And then Haddock is still Haddock. And then Calculus, I don't remember what Calculus was. But
La Calculi.
La Calculi. Sounds like a song.
Or no, it would be La Math.
La math.
No.
There's another thing I want to address is in the past I used to work with somebody who was also a fan of comics, but he was very picky about comic books. So when I told him I was a big fan of Tintin, he would always say to me, "Oh, Tintin's racist. Why do you read that stuff? Tintin's racist." So now I do have some things I could defend Tintin on, but I mean, you guys, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking back, looking back at Tintin in the Congo.
Yeah.
Just the way they portray African people in that. I mean, they painted them. They colored the characters, painted them black, whatever you want, but they made it look like it was almost like blackface, basically, like Al Jolson, the jazz singer, basically.
Right.
And in some cases, they even actually made them look ape-like, like they had like completely black skin, but like almost like a peach complexion just around their mouth area.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like I don't know. This happened with a lot of different well-known artists and just different like forms of media too. It's like Popeye and the Island of the Goons.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew exactly who they were going after, but I mean, it was pretty bad. But I think the weird part is just especially about that time is that you couldn't really pick out one person who was doing it because everybody was.
Right.
And not justifying saying that's right. It's just it's sort of like because everybody's sort of trying to be better than their competitor.
Right.
So you could just imagine how ugly that got.
Yeah. I think basically, if they looked at black people in real life, they probably could have been a little more subtle with the way they were illustrated. You know.
I mean, I think that Tintin in the Congo is probably the worst when it came to like racist caricatures of different characters. But I would say in terms of attitude, I mean, I don't think it's a very good book. But the first one that they always list, the Tintin and the Blue Lotus, it's not that good of a book. And furthermore, it's a little bit. I mean, just the attitudes. They're always throwing stuff. They're trying to. I think they tried to cook Snowy at one point.
I don't think. Well, no, I don't think they don't. No. They don't. They don't. There was one. I think there was one character in there that was drugged, like he was hallucinating. So he was going to kill Snowy, but that character's dad like rescued Snowy.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think. My defense is you could make the defense that it was the times you could that everything was allowed to be racist. Hergé did say that at the time that's how Belgian people viewed politically and racially viewed things. Like in the land of the Soviets, he was drawing this comic because this is what his bosses wanted him to draw. Like his bosses wanted him to draw this, like their views of how the Belgians viewed the Soviets. It's like okay, because he worked for a Catholic magazine, so they're like okay, communism is very anti-Christian. We want you to have this character fighting communists, and Hergé's like, okay. And then when he makes the comic, like, okay, we want you to make this character where he goes to Africa and he plays with the natives, and he's just like, okay, all right.
I mean, it's sort of it's weird too because it I guess kind of beginning to get into sort of like the James Bond comparisons, but when you get into things like Tintin in America, it starts becoming less of Hergé's views on the world, which I think, of course, you begin to see more of as the series got on and got better. But like it became more of like what was a representation of the time, because I mean you definitely get that with James Bond in terms of filmmaking. Is that From Russia with Love is a straight up representation and not rip off, but like homage to North by Northwest and Hitchcock. So you see like James Bond is kind of like a catalyst in terms of like showing what filmmaking is during the time that movie was made. Like Skyfall is straight up Christopher Nolan and like kind of that kind of filmmaking. So you see like Tintin in America, that was like sort of like coming off of Westerns were really cheap to make at the time. This is what Native Americans looked like. And Tintin in America, to its defense, is not the worst of caricatures of the Native Americans. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, it was definitely the big headdress, like kind of the wood carving Indian outside of the cigar store.
Yeah.
or like the Illini mascot.
Yeah. Yeah. Not nearly as bad as the Redskins, though.
Yeah. And also in defense, later on, the character Tintin himself is protective of the little guy.
Tintin himself as a character was never like, oh, these people.
Yeah,
like he was always kind of like, I'm in a bad situation. I'm gonna find my way out, outwit people.
Yeah.
It's sort of like whenever you saw like Bugs Bunny in the war cartoons, like
right.
He would make like a thing here and there, but he would never just go like Nazis are terrible people.
He's just making a fool out of them.
Exactly. It's really that sort of as much as it got.
It's mockery and satire basically.
Exactly. It was nothing personal. It was just
and because there's one in Tintin and the Blue Lotus, there's a scene where there's like a rich white guy beating up a Chinaman because I don't know, for some harmless reason. Then Tintin walks up to that guy, takes the guy's can, bricks in that. He's like, "You're a brute" and stuff. You're a punk and all that stuff. And the white guy's like, "Oh yeah, well, screw you," and all that stuff. So that's one. I mean, that's one defense. I mean, you could, because the bottom line is we don't really have an explanation why there's nothing else. What else could we say? Because I mean, it was the times how Belgians. Because Hergé did admit that it was wrong of how he drew it back then. But it's because that's what his bosses wanted him to draw. They wanted him to draw these things that how the Belgians viewed back then.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I mean, I think that's a good close to this section too.
Okay, good. Now we got that out of the way. I bet you there's gonna be someone that's gonna tune us
now
out.
back to comedy.
I feel like there's gonna be some guy out there who's listening to this. He's just gonna stop right in the middle of the racism part. He's like, okay, I'm done with this podcast. These guys are.
All right, enough with the morality. I want some entertainment while my lunch break. Come on.
But going back to the fun parts of Tintin, yay! What else do you guys want to bring up?
I just love like. Is it right if I keep talking about the movie, or I just like, or actually, I shouldn't say just the movie. It goes for like the comic book series and the cartoon as well.
Yeah.
But I just remember when I was a kid, I was just trying to guess as to when did this all take place. Because I was looking at the clothes they were wearing, the technology that they had, the vehicles they were driving. Mm-hmm. And just like I was guessing, okay, I'm guessing 1930s based off like some of the cars he was driving. Then I saw them driving a Jeep. Okay, it has to be at least the 1940s. Then I saw them driving like an MG, driving a Triumph at the end of the movie. I'm like, okay, at least 1950. That's where it's got to be.
Like, was your mind just blown when Tintin went to space?
I felt I felt like Robin Williams in Jumanji. What year is it?
Tintin in space.
Oh man, that's like one of those ones where, like, looking back on it, I'd like to say like, okay, these are the ones that I would love to just push off into the dark and never see again. But those are still two very good books.
Yes,
with Destination Moon and Explorers on the Moon. I mean, you can kind of say like, okay. Because usually everything gets bad when it goes to space,
right?
If it doesn't actually start in space. But no, Tintin kind of did that in the middle of the series, and it continued to get better. And that was because, like, I think Hergé knew like he was going off of something that was very relevant, but at the same time he was building up his kind of character base. It's sort of like bringing more and more characters into the mix to make it actually better, not like too many.
Yeah. I just remember like when they're on the moon, the rocket that they take up to the moon, it definitely looked like they were using like a captured Nazi V2 rocket or something.
Yeah,
which wouldn't surprise me because I remember the United States and the Soviet Union basically took the Nazi scientists and used them for their space programs. I remember.
It kind of draws another comparison to Indiana Jones actually, because I think of Indiana Jones as one of the best action series, because I mean, while it has its fantasy elements, everything is time period appropriate.
Right. Yeah.
So all those planes, all those trucks and everything were used. And that's kind of the same way with Tintin too, because I mean, the cars that were drawn and stuff, it wasn't just like 50s car. It was very specifically like this was a Rolls Royce or something, and like you could see he begins to kind of muddle it a bit where the logo would be, but know, it's kind of like Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
You know what cars these are supposed to be.
It's like you know what it is, but we don't want to deal with copyright infringement. So.
Exactly.
Actually, going back to the vehicles, there was one time when I was reading I was watching the biography. There's a biography called Tintin and I, and it was a documentary about this one journalist who interviewed Hergé and about all the conversations they had when Belgium was occupied by the Nazis. In the Tintin book, the King Ottoman's Spectre or something.
Oh man, it's like King Ottocar. King Octakar's Scepter.
Yeah, King Ottokar's Spectre. In that story, the bad guys are supposedly Nazis. They're not called Nazis, but he made it because Hergé made up this country, and it made it like a fascist-like country, and it was supposed to be based off the Nazis. The main villain of that story was called Musseler. It's a combination of Mussolini and Hitler. and so
yeah, it's very subtle.
Yeah, that's better than Adnoid Henkel.
Adnoid Henkel.
Actually when Belgium got occupied by the Nazis, this one Nazi officer came into his office one time after reading the King Oktar's Spectre. He just went, "This plane is a German plane," and Hergé's like, "No, what are you talking about? That's a made up plane. That's that particular country's plane." And the officer's like, "Don't be drawing stuff like this, or else you're gonna get in big trouble and stuff." He's like, "All right, okay, all right." So, and then after that, that's like when he started taking it easy on the political stuff. That's when he started drawing more of the adventure stuff at the time, and then that's when the Nazis left, and then he started drawing more political stuff again.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was kind of a neat thing too, because there would be sometimes, just in terms of the villains, like the villains for Tintin would be very like kind of run of the mill, your rich guy, your dictator,
Or gangster.
or gangster. I mean, I think that there would be times where Hergé would then go ahead and say like, okay, we need a little bit of variety, which is where you get the amazing villain from Flight 714.
Oh yeah.
Where, I mean, once again, he's definitely a rich dictator type who's trying to control an island, but at the same time, though, he's got a personality to him.
I forgot, what was his name again? He was the guy with like the monocle and like the.
He wore a pink shirt.
Yeah, a pink shirt. He had a big nose. And he was like of Spanish descent or something. And he.
Oh yeah.
I forgot what his name was. God, I should have reread some of those characters. See, we know the main characters by heart, but like some of the bad guys, I keep forgetting their names and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you remember like the.
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, I'm really good with the book names.
Yeah.
And what happens in them, but that's kind of about it.
Yeah, but I mean, we know the main characters, we just don't know the bad guys because the villains are different every time.
They are, and that's kind of interesting. Except for what is it? No, he was from something else.
Oh, the Spanish guy.
Yes, I thought was he in Castilla 4 or no?
Castilla 4? I don't know.
What was it, the Castilla 4 incident? Or?
Oh, like, is that the one where Haddock breaks his leg or something, and then Castafiore is taking care of him and stuff,
Yes.
and he's like making his life a living hell.
Yes.
Oh, she's making his life a living hell.
But he was he was a villain from another. He might have actually been the villain from the Crab with the Golden Claws.
No, the Crab.
No.
That was Alan. Crab with the Golden Claws was Alan.
That was the captain's first mate, Alan.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the one who portrays Haddock. No one takes my ship.
Mutinous scallywags!
I know there was one other villain that portrayed both in Tintin America and the Blue Lotus, and that was just like this one American gangster, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So, other than that, and then there was like this one society when in the Pharaoh, the Cigars of the Pharaoh. There was those purple masked society guys, like a little cult that like to drug people and stuff and hallucinate them.
Right. I think it was a good thing on them to actually kind of keep things separate for each one, because I don't know, that's actually one of the things I like the most about actually going back to Indiana Jones, that they rarely ever go ahead and say like, this is a direct sequel to this. It was always like another day in the life of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I was lucky to live through yesterday. I don't want to think about it.
Just another day at the office.
Let's talk about today. Today looks pretty good. Yesterday was a bit of a boat ride.
Held onto a submarine as it submerged. You don't know what it's like.
From your best memories, what are your favorite Tintin stories?
I'll start because I know this one definitely. I actually was kind of mad when they announced the movie, which one it was, because it wasn't my favorite.
Oh.
I'm gonna go with, I think, the most action-packed and the best written. I'm gonna go with The Seven Crystal Balls and Prisoners of the Sun.
Nice.
The best duo, I think.
The best duo. Yeah, the two back-to-back stories. How about you, Peter?
Okay, I'm trying to remember the names of the episodes, so that was the hard thing. Because remember, I only watched it when I was a kid. I don't remember the specific names, but I do gotta say that like the Adventures of the Unicorn, that was a big one. I remember enjoying that one as much. Which is probably why they made the movie out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie was a combination of that and the Crab with the Golden Claw.
Right.
But yeah,
But not the best parts of Crab with the Golden Claw.
right. I mean, really, the only thing from it was just like the introduction of Captain Haddock. It seemed,
which was kind of weird because I mean they didn't. I don't know. I thought they didn't handle that one too well. It was sort of like, I don't know.
It's like we gotta throw him in somehow. So
right,
just take the part from the book where he first appeared.
Because they gotta have Haddock and that stuff.
Oh, good lord! I was kind of surprised they didn't put Professor Calculus in it.
Me too.
That was kind of. I know that they were thinking like we hold it for the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is there gonna be a second movie?
Okay. Oh yeah. So recent news. So Peter Jackson, originally the Hobbit movies were supposed to be 2 Hobbit movies.
Yep.
Then he made it into 3 because during the Hobbit movies he said, okay, I'm gonna work on the next Tintin movie after the Hobbit movies. So then he made it into 3 Hobbit movies, and then after the Hobbit movies, he said, "Okay, I'm going to work on another movie that I had in mind. Then I'm going to work on the Tintin movie." So it's going to happen. I just don't know when. I don't know when it's coming out because it is going to happen. Because Jamie Bell, the guy who plays Tintin, he says it is happening.
Mhm.
So, and then Peter Jackson says it's happening too. I just don't know when it's coming
I
out.
think
So.
that we got to be prepared for something with this second movie. I think that we got to be prepared for a downgrade in quality.
Do you think so? Oh, yeah,
Well-
because Steven Spielberg left?
It's not just because of that. It's because it didn't test well with American audiences, but it did very well with European
Yeah, well, because
audiences.
because America does. Yeah, not a lot of Americans know who Tintin is.
Which was kind of weird because the audience that it was geared toward was us.
Right.
It was geared toward American audiences. It was going for the males 18 through 35 demographic,
Right.
Mhm.
which is very interesting considering the fact that, as we've mentioned, it's Belgian,
Yeah.
it's French.
hmm
Not really. We don't really factor into it too much.
Yeah, because we
in terms of its popularity.
yeah, our audiences would rather see Transformers 8 or what's another
Another Fast and the Furious movie.
or what's another gimmick they have out there?
Oh, it keeps going.
Uh,
Oh, anything anything that was once a young adult book.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the age we're in right now.
Oh, like with Divergent and
Divergent, the Hunger Games,
The Giver,
the Maze Runner.
Maze Runner, The Giver. Wait, I just said The Giver.
The Giver.
Yeah, that's more. Yeah, I mean, sidetracking. The Giver wasn't that bad. They were just they were advertising it like the Hunger Games, and the movie was nothing like wasn't like how they advertised it. But you know.
Tintin was almost like it didn't get very much PR. It seemed like when the movie was about to come out.
I mean, the movie was like, I'll say a thing that I kind of remember, and this is always kind of spells doom to me. Is that they released a bunch of posters for it, and it seemed like they couldn't decide on a title.
Oh yeah.
Well, because there would be posters that said like The Adventures of Tintin, and then there would be posters that would say Tintin and the Secret of the Unicorn, and that was always kind of weird to me because it reminds me of the fourth Shrek. How they couldn't decide on whether or not it was Shrek the Final Chapter or Shrek Forever After, so it just became Shrek Forever After the Final Chapter. And yeah, that's what happened with Tintin, was The Adventures of Tintin, the Secret of the Unicorn.
Okay. All right. So, since we just brought up the movie, should we just talk about the movie?
I think we should go right into the movie.
Okay.